Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good day to all. Today I would like to present the topic, we call it Wadi'ah and Ujrah issue in al-rahn product, a turning point to Tawarruk structure. My name is Dziauddin Sharif, and also my co-authors Muhammad Fairuz Abdul Khair and Fadilah Adibah Ismail, and we are all from Academy of Contemporary Islamic Studies, UITM, and Dr. Fairuz from International Center for Education in Islamic Finance in CEF. For the introduction, some scholars are consistently agreed about the unnecessary concept of Ujrah to be embedded in al-rahn product, as they stated that al-rahn is only served for securing the debt and is not a method for generating the profits. In fact, they analyze the concept of Ujrah is a part of said contract that we call it bayul manfa'ah, or can be translated as sale of usufruct, and thus it is prohibited to be applied with the qara. We translated it as loan contract. It is understandable due to the reason why the concept of Ujrah is wrongly used in al-rahn product. When we look at the past literatures, while the discussion of al-rahn is intensively discovered, the concept of Wadi'ah in Islamic law shall be collectively understood in clarifying the issue of compositing al-rahn and Wadi'ah. According to the Hanafiyy school, the contract of Wadi'ah is defined as authorizing another party to safeguard one's property by either declaration or indication. And then we look at this figure or diagram, we can see the problem of combination of Wadi'ah and al-rahn. The figure designates the flow and the application of al-rahn and Wadi'ah composite contract when it is imparted into pouring product. The flow starts with the engagement of qarat contract before an institution holds the jewelry as the collateral under al-rahn product. At the same time, an institution keeps the pawn object under the contract of Wadi'ah. Since the collateral and the consigned object are just similar, it creates a conflict in the contract objectiveness, or we call it muqtada al-aqdu. The conflict occurs when the contract of Wadi'ah allows the depository to reclaim the goods kept by a trustee at any time, while the contract of al-rahn doesn't apply it. When the collateral in the al-rahn contract only can be redeemed after the completion of debt repayment or purchase installment, the consigned object cannot be recollected before that period, even the safekeeping fee is settled. This is due to the acceptance of similar object in both contracts, rahnu and Wadi'ah. In the invalidity of the recollecting the consigned object is against the opinion of Ibn Hazm about Wadi'ah. And then, if we want to turn into the Hanafiyy resolution, is it possible? And then, when we can see, when we see the diagram here, it describes how the original principle of Wadi'ah is also conflicting with the principle of damanah. The above diagram shows the flow principle and the application of three contracts. We call it al-rahn, Wadi'ah, and damanah. It conflicts when the element of trust, which constitute the original principle of Wadi'ah contract, is conflicting with the principle of guarantee in damanah contract. The principle of amanah displays the custodian that he is not liable to guarantee the consigned object under his or her custody in case of damage or loss, as long as negligence or taksir or the transgression doesn't occur. In this regard, changing original feature of Wadi'ah from being trust-based contract to a guarantee-based contract is being concerned. When you look at the saying by the AOOIFI Resolution, we can see that the stipulation of guarantees in trust contracts, agency contract, or contract of deposit is not permitted. That is the problem of settlement. Then we move to the methodology. This study uses qualitative approach where content analysis are conducted. Several books of fiqh from the four schools of thought are examined. This study uses several books of fiqh from the four schools of thought, which are Al-Mabsud of Sarakhsi, Hashiyah Radul Mukhtar from Hanafiyy school, Bidayatul Mujtahid, wa Nihayatul Muqtasid, and also the book from Hashiyah Al-Dasuqi, Al-Shaykh Al-Kabir from Maliki school, and from Shafi'i school, we depending on the Al-Majmu' of Al-Nawawi, and for Hanbali school, we depending on Al-Mughni of Ibn Qudamah. The study also conducted semi-structured interviews that based on Wilson to 2014. A semi-structured interview combines the open-ended exploration of an unstructured interview with predetermined questions like those used in structured interviews. Interviews that use the semi-structured interview method usually follow a document called an interview guide. The semi-structured interview's overall purpose is to collect systematic information about a handful of major subjects while also allowing for open-ended questions as new issues or themes arise, some investigation. The interview is conducted with some scholars who have knowledge regarding related topics and related industries such as ISRA academician and also the researchers from INSAF, then the Sharia committee and operators for Islamic financial institution that conducting al-rahn product. This is among the questions that we set up early for the purpose of getting the data and information from the industry. Now we move to the next diagram that talking about the implication of Ujrah and Wadi'ah connection. Right. This diagram describes the flow and the application of Ujrah and Wadi'ah connection when it is applied through al-rahn product. The flow starts with the engagement of loan contract here. Before an institution keeps the collateral under their custody, the safekeeping of collateral is applied based on the principle of Wadi'ah, where they impose a fee from the service that is rendered. This kind of fee is charged under the principle of Ujrah. However, the connection gives rise to the indirect impact, indirect implication of Bay' wa Salaf and Qarad al-Marfa that are prohibited in Sharia. In this regard, it must be a deeper debate involving these two principles. And most of the scholars didn't agree about the combination of this principle. As a result, the industries now are engaged with the new embedded principle that we call it tawaruk and also al-rahn. When we look at this diagram, we can see the tawaruk is about the trading commodity, and then the delay payment will be backed by the collateral. We call it al-rahn or marhun, which is using the concept of the principle of al-rahn. And now we move to the diagram here. The step number one, when we're using the tawaruk and al-rahn, the pawnbroker will be approaching a rahn shop to get financing. After that, al-rahn will buy commodity, for example, 10,000 ringgit from the Burkusila. Okay? And then this is the certification of buying and selling. And after that, the al-rahn shop will pay in cash. After al-rahn shop own the commodity, then he will sell the commodity. He will selling the commodities to the pawnbroker with a total of 10,000 plus the profit. And we're using the principle of murabaha. After that, the pawnbroker pays the arrears to al-rahn shop according to the repayment period. For example, 6 months, 8 months, or even a year, or the maximum period will be 18 months. Then the pawnbroker delegates al-rahn shop to sell the commodity to a third party. In this scenario, they will sell it as much as 10,000 ringgit to the third party. And then The third party will give uh, the basement of 10,000 to the pawnbroker, right? And then the pawnbroker receives 10,000 cash and handed over the pawn goods by using the principle of al-rahn. That is the current structure. So the current structure here has manifest gains over other structures that have been earlier debated. The use of al-rahn in this structure consistently meets the purpose for which the rahn contract was constituted by the Sharia, which is to become an assurance contract, not to become the generation of the profit. So that in this structure, profit generation is placed in the right position, which is a trading contract, while al-rahn remains a trust-based security contract. Thus, this structure doesn't try to employ rahnu for a purpose that contravenes that very nature of the rahnu contract and also its objectiveness. As a result, the structure is ultimately saved from the prohibited elements, which is allow the trading principle to generate the profit rather than to use the previous principle, qarab, and also ujrah, and so on. That's it for today, my presentation. I will end this presentation to say thank you very much to the organizer for letting us and giving us the opportunity to explain this topic. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.